was something more that needed to be done. Living short lives because of the criminal activity they may be involved in.
I was an angry child. I wasn't aware why my father left. I wasn't aware why he made promises that he never kept. I grew up in a household with my mother, my aunt, my little cousin, and my older sister for a while. It wasn't uncommon for us to hear like gunshots outside. It wasn't uncommon for us to see crackheads down the street, to see homeless people just sleeping on the street, to see drug fiends just coming up to you constantly asking you for money, to see my friends who had parents who were strung out on drugs just walking around. I actually thought that was normal. But I never even had the chance to digest the fact that I was a statistic in that way. Because I was a part of Hope Farm, I was always told that I'm a leader. I was always told that I could overcome anything. And I was always told that I was a game changer. And that's not how the world feels about young men or young boys, young black boys from the south side of Fort Worth who doesn't have a father in the home. They just expect by the third grade for them to end up in a jail cell or end up dead.
Where's the love? Wow.
My name is Noble Crawford. I am one of the co-founders of Hope Farm along with Gary Randall. My current title is Chief Operating Officer, but having been here as long as I have, titles don't always mean as much as they sound like, but that's my role at this time. Hope Farm was born out of that experience as a law enforcement officer. I was a criminal investigator for the Texas Department of Public Safety. When I arrested somebody and taken them to the county jail, part of that population were young African American and Hispanic boys living short lives because of the criminal activity they may be involved in. And getting into the system and not getting out of it, or being marked for the rest of their lives because they committed some kind of crime or they were convicted whether they did it or not. There was something more that needed to be done to help these guys. And law enforcement was not the solution, because arresting them and putting them in jail did not solve the problem. It only aggravated the problem. And so the burden that I had, I discovered that Gary had the same burden. And so we decided that we need to do something about it. What we discovered is how hungry and how thirsty those boys were for a relationship with a father. Let's just say there were 10 boys in the classroom. If I spent a third of my time with at least one of those boys, another boy would come and ask that kid, "Is that your daddy?" Because just that very little bit of time of attention and focus is not what they were used to.
Mr. Randall, Mr. Crawford, I have a young man here who is in dire straits. His family doesn't have anywhere to sleep tonight. He is extremely angry. He has been getting suspended and he just needs help. What can you all do for us? And their response was always, let's get a meeting set up with the mother, let's come to the school, and let's start building those relationships. I wish that every principal had someone in their community that they could rely on so that when I call, you're there.
I knew that we were making a difference as early as those days when we were at the elementary school. And that multiplied once we started our own place, because we started teaching them very basic social skills like handshakes and looking you in the eye and greeting you and giving you their name. And so I knew with that very small thing that we were teaching them that we were making a difference.
Mentorship is definitely a big part of our program. It's so much easier to prepare a kid than to repair. And so if we can bring them in as kindergartner and mold them into the Hope Farm way and set the disciplines right, then they become prime candidates to be mentor for younger kids as they come through. And so that being disciples making disciples makes our model very special.
My son had a lot of anger issues, and he was dealing with not having a father around, and they sent him to therapy. They mentored him. They took time out with him, and they showed him that no matter what, that he was always loved.
Hope Farm provides that thick chain that anchors every single kid deep in their soul. That was the most magical experience for me to witness. It makes them better students. It makes them better people. That impact extends to what they do at home and then inevitably into the community.
So by the time Charles got home, he was so excited. He came in and said, "Mama, you know what? Did you know I could be an entrepreneur?" With Hope Farm in his corner, I'm pretty sure he can achieve all of his goals, all of his dreams. As a mother, it makes me feel great.
Gang activity in this community is very real. It was just about 6 months ago, we've had a conversation with one of the counselors at one of the schools nearby. And they reached out to us and said they're in crisis mode. The gang members are lining up after school and recruiting 3rd and 4th graders into their gangs. And the young men at this stage in their life, they're just looking for family. And so if we don't get them, the gang members will. But we want to offer them a better family. And so that's why we do what we do and go to the lengths that we do in order to bring boys into our safe environment and turn them into Christ-centered young men.
In my community, I was surrounded by Crips. I wasn't introduced to gang-related activities until about middle school. And Hope Farm had already had the chance to pour life into me, and I was blessed enough to be sheltered from a lot of different things. It was impossible to shelter me from everything. I actually had an encounter when I was walking home with another gentleman from Hope Farm, one of my Hope Farm brothers, and we got confronted by a guy who was in a gang. I don't know what his reason was, what provoked him, what motivated him, but he ended up striking me. He punched me in my face. Then he pulled a gun out. He pulled a gun out on us, and it shook me, And I think that was the first real time that I was fully exposed to my atmosphere and what life really was like. Growing up on the south side of Fort Worth, I was petrified. I didn't know what to do. And I was reminded of a verse in Jeremiah 29:11. It's the theme verse of Hope Farm. My heart kind of breaks because here's a kid who is pretty much a black kid just like me, angry just like me, same age as me. And the only difference, the only variable is that I'm a part of this organization and he's not. What's crazy is that could have been me. That could have been me, that kid that walked up on somebody pulling out a gun because I let my anger control me. That could have easily been me. And it's kind of hard to think about that. Yeah, it is hard to think about it because it does hurt. It's hard to think about that another kid who to some people may just seem like some thug or some gangster or some delinquent ready to just wash their hands with him, but he really was just crying out for attention. He really just wanted to be loved. He needed to be loved. I don't even know where that guy is. I don't know if he's in jail. I don't know if he's dead. I don't know if he turned his life around, but what would his life have been like if he was a part of Hope Farm? What if he had the opportunity to have men to care enough about him to pour into his life and speak life into him and let him know that he's loved and let him know what thus says the Lord and let him know that he can be more than his environment, but he didn't have a chance. That's why Hope Farm is so important. I want to make sure that I can do everything that I can to make sure that these guys that are in my care don't have to go down that same route. So when I see that 5-year-old Felix coming through the gate for the first time, I immediately just want to embrace him. I immediately just want him to know that he is loved, that I see him, and that everything is going to be okay.
A couple years ago, Hope Farm celebrated their 20th year anniversary. As we move forward to our next 20 years, I invite you to spend some time on one of our campuses. I'm willing to bet if you spend some time with our boys, you'll be compelled to do more.